interagency agreement, moving to consolidate their workforce development with the Department of Labor.
Those are the kinds of things that I will want to work on and show to Congress that this can be handled better, more efficiently, and in the end, if given the chance, we will prove how not only are our students not harmed, but they are the beneficiaries of having all of their education in the states closest to them.
While litigation is ongoing, McMahon believes this ruling moves them closer to shutting the agency down, though it would still have to be approved by Congress. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
President Trump says Republicans are being duped by a Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Jared Halpern has more from the White House.
Republican lawmakers and conservative influencers focusing on the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking investigation are doing the work of Democrats, President Trump says.
He's dead, he's gone, and all it is the certain Republicans got duped by the Democrats, and they're following a Democrat playbook.
For days, President Trump has come to the defense of Attorney General Pam Bondi's handling of the case.
She says, I gave you all the credible information, and if she finds any more credible information, she'll give that too. What more can she do than that?
The Justice Department says investigators found no evidence of a client list kept by Epstein. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The July 4th flooding tragedy in the Texas Hill Country has many in the weather community and others asking questions about what can be done to prevent something like this in the future. Robert Thornton reports.
More than 130 people perished and many others are missing. 27 of the people that died were at Camp Mystic, located along the Guadalupe River, or Guadalupe as some locals call it. The area has a history of flooding due to its topography and geology, and many believe the amount of rain, the river's fast rise, and the time of night it happened all worked together to create the tragedy. It has been reported that Camp Mystic does not allow campers to have phones. Many in the weather community believe the National Weather Service did its job. A big question remains, are weather warnings received by end users or not? Recently, the Weather Brains podcast crew offered possible solutions to prevent something like this from happening. One example is outdoor sirens that consider water level upstream and will sound alarms downstream when water is rising. Kim Cloco-McLean says warnings are a social process.
If you get a whole bunch of flash flood warnings, they're all quite the same, regardless of circumstance, and they're all delivered the same way, nothing stands out about it, then you have experienced that so many times, the signal has lost its value.
Texas meteorologist Troy Kimmel proposed this idea.
Emergency action plans must be available in the county judge's office, which in the state of Texas is largely responsible for emergency management, or in the emergency management office for not only the city and the county, but if you have a camp where you have large amounts of people coming in, I think those should be required by law.
The Weather Brains crew agreed it will take a variety of experts coming together to solve the problem. I'm Robert Thornton.
More news available online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pete.
This weekend on The Stand Radio, theologian and author Dr. Owen Strand will explain the world's idea of what it means to be a man and the need for biblically balanced manhood.
There are a number of things that have begun to creep into the evangelical world that have my attention, because here's the deal. You can err in being too soft. There's plenty of that. You can also err in being too strong.
The Stand Radio, Saturdays at 4 and Sundays at 8 p.m. Central on AFR.
Welcome to Real Truth for Today with Pastor Jeff Shreve, Senior Pastor of First Baptist Church in Texarkana, Texas. Now, here's Pastor Jeff.
Well, good morning and welcome to Real Truth for Today. Pastor Jeff Shreve here. Hope you're having a great morning. I wanted to read to you from Acts chapter 16. Acts chapter 16 is the story of Paul and Silas and the Philippian jailer. It says, but about midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns of praise to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. And suddenly there came a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison house were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's chains were unfastened. And when the jailer had been aroused out of sleep and had seen the prison doors open, he drew his sword and was about to kill himself, supposing that the prisoners had escaped. But Paul cried out with a loud voice, saying, "Do yourself no harm, for we are all here."
Yeah.
And he called for lights and rushed in, and trembling with fear, he fell down before Paul and Silas. And after he brought them out, he said, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?"
Yeah.
Well, it's a great privilege today for me to welcome to the program a man who has spent 40 years in the prison system, not as a convict, but as a chaplain, as a minister, as an evangelist in the prison system around Texas and in other states around America. His name is Mike Barber. He has Mike Barber Ministries. Mike is a guy I grew up watching on television. He was the tight end for the Houston Oilers, and he was tight end from 76 to 81 during those Love You Blue years. It was the best, Mike. And then he played 4 seasons for the Rams and retired in 1985 and got into prison ministry, and he's celebrating 40 years sharing Christ in prison. So, Mike, welcome to the program today.
Thank you, Jeff. It's an honor to be here. And man, when you say 40 years, that's 40 years full time. I did it my last 6 years of my off season.
Oh, is that right?
Altogether 46 years. And that's hard to believe that I've been doing this for that long. And, you know, they said, you know, you're working in the right place if you never experienced the second day at work.
Yeah.
I've never experienced the second day on the job. And it's been such an honor and a privilege. And I'm a very blessed man.
Amen. So, Mike, how did you get involved with prison ministry?
My best friend, Bunny Martin, world champion yo-yo expert. But he did a lot of the NFL chapel services throughout the years, and he did the chapel service for the Oilers. And he and we met and immediately hit it off. And as we got to know each other, he was telling me how he'd go into prison with the Bill Glass Prison Ministry. Give them credit where credit is due. And anyhow, he kept asking me to come in with him, Jeff. And to be totally honest with him, I was a baby Christian. I had diapers on. And you know, I said, man, they got what they deserve. I'm not going into prison, you know, typical corporate America opinion. But for a year and a half, he kept asking me. He would not stop asking me. And to get him off my back, literally, is I said, okay, there was a prison. I was living in Sugar Land, just south of Houston. And there's a number of prisons out there, Jester's 1, 2, and 3. 20 minutes from my house. I said, well, I can't get more convenient than this. So I went and I told him, Jeff, I said, I'll go. Don't you tell nobody I'm coming. I'm not going to speak. You do your thing. I'll stand over in the corner. He told me it was going to be in a gym. I said, I'll stand over the corner in the gym, I'm sure, with the guards, and we'll talk football while you do your thing. As soon as we walked into the gym, Jeff, they over the microphone, the system, the whole prison, number 86 of the Houston Oilers is in the gym. And I looked at my buddy and I said, I'm going to get you later, big boy. And so I was over there with 2 guards. Now we call them officials, officers. And we talked football, just like we said. And here come all the inmates in, Jeff. And I purposely turned my back to them. But I couldn't help myself. And I kept turning, and they're doing this, and big old smiles on their face.
Yeah.
And it didn't take no time. I said, they look like my neighbors. You know, what's up with this? And then it hit me. I saw the chairs and back up against that back wall under the staircase stacked, but they were making these inmates sit on that cement floor, and it didn't do good with me. And I kept looking, and finally I got honest with myself. And Jeff, this is exactly where it started 46 years ago. And I got honest with myself, and I said, the difference between them and me is they got caught. You know, I've never drank, I've never done any drugs, but I fought a lot, and I just did a lot of stupid stuff that could have got me in trouble with the law. You know, no stealing, none of that kind of stuff. Just stuck on stupid. And anyway, before you know it, the program had started, and they're still waving at me instead of watching my friend Bunny Martin. And I dismissed myself, and I went and sat right in the middle of them on that cement floor. When I sat down, they're all poking me and high-fiving me. it was interrupting my friend, and I was loving that part. You understand? But anyhow, that's how it started. When the service was over with, Jeff, I got up, but right before it ended, and I walked behind them to the door. They all came in. I asked the guard. I said, "Now are they all going back out this door?" They came in. They go, "Yeah." I said, "Can I stand here and shake their hand?" And East Texas, redneck, not to the bone, but through the bone. and the majority, I don't know what the percentage is, it doesn't matter, but by far the majority, Black. And the very first inmate, Black. And I go to put my hand out, and I say again, this is exactly the way it happened. So help me God. And I put my hand out, and before I knew it, that dude had his arms around my neck and giving me the biggest hug. And playing football, I was pretty good with a hand shiver. And I gave the dude a little bit of hand shiver. And I said, "Oh, no, I don't do that." Every single one of those inmates hugged my neck. And I let every one of them do it.
Yeah.
And I got home that evening, and I walked straight to my recliner in my house, lived by myself. And I leaned it back, and Jeff, I looked up and I said, "Lord, what just happened to me?" And he said, "I delivered you from stupidity, racism." And from that moment on, I've been ate up going inside the prisons. I had studied, I'm going to be an NFL coach. I had good friends that were coaching in the league already, and it was an easy in as soon as I got through retiring. But God had a much better game plan. And from that moment on, I spent all my off seasons, my last 6 years in the league, going into prisons all over the country and not realizing it, that about into my 6th year, I had a real encounter with the Holy Spirit. And I realized that's what God had called me to do at the end of my football career. And so that's been 40 years now, where we're about halfway now in the middle of our 40th year of prison ministry. And Jeff, thank you for allowing me to talk about it, but I truly am the most blessed man in the whole world. I wouldn't trade places with nobody to go even into the least of them. My favorite thing is going cell to cell. And it's such a joy. It all happened because of me caught a few passes with these hands. But it all happened because I truly received Christ into my heart.
When did that happen?
The Lord of my life.
When did that happen, Mike?
That was in it was about 1982.
Okay.
Yeah, about that time. I was in the league for 4 years. Let me put it in. So my last 6 years in the league, I played as a man of God, and a lot of growing to do. But
so you were with the Oilers or the Rams when you became?
I was with the 6 years with the Oilers, 4 years with the Rams, and my first 4 years in the league, I was a wreck looking for a place to happen. Fought all the time. Bum called me in and said, "If you don't stop fighting, I'm going to trade you. I love you like a son," and I knew he did, or he wouldn't have said it. And so I started straightening my act up there. But I wanted to get to the Super Bowl, obviously. But at the same time, I couldn't wait till the season's over with, because literally the next week I was in a prison somewhere. I loved it, and I still do, obviously, today.
Okay, so Mike, I was on your website. I watched you, one of the videos that was on there with you preaching at a women's prison. And for some reason, I was just thinking you were going to men's prisons, but you're doing both male and female.
Oh, yeah. I do men and women all the time. Now, here in Texas, you've got, 120,000, whatever it is. Well, maybe 16,000 of that number is women. So you don't have near the women of prisons as you do men.
Right.
So by far we go into the men. But yes, we do women prisons about 4 or 5 times a year at least. Well, we'll go in for 3 days.
So, Mike, I worked, before the Lord called me in the ministry, I worked for an Alco chemical company there in Sugar Land, and right next to Imperial Sugar, if you remember where Imperial was. Yeah. So TDCJ was one of my big accounts, and I went to a lot of prisons, and just exactly what you said. These guys were just like my neighbors, and I remember talking to one of the facility guys out there, and I said, I don't even understand why these guys are in prison. They seem just like regular guys. And he told me, he said, don't let them fool you. They have a different gear. He said, nobody's in here for singing too loud in church.
That's right.
And he said, so, I mean, it's good that you have a good relationship with those guys, but just, don't ever kind of rest in that, because if they get mad, they could do something.
Yeah.
And, so I had to keep that in mind.
Yeah. The thing about it is, though, TV paints such a horrible picture of prisons, what's going on inside. Yeah. You have that small percentage, like let's say a prison of 2,000. Mm-hmm. You would only have a handful of inmates that might do something bad to you if you were in there. All the others, by far, they're so respectful. I leave my wife. My wife goes into prison with me, and I will leave her standing in the middle of a bunch of inmates that I know he's in there for murder, he's in there for this, but I will leave her in a heartbeat to go somewhere else in the prison. Now I'm talking about for 20, 30 minutes or so. Why? Wow. Because if some inmate were to be stupid, he'd have at least 10 inmates jump on him immediately and protect. Mm-hmm. And so I know it sounds funny, but my wife pretty much feels more comfortable and safe in prison than out of prison. Isn't that funny? That's the truth. It is.
Well, I've been to a lot of prisons, Mike, obviously not like you, but I remember going to the Darrington unit.
Yeah. And
they would talk about that in Huntsville. They say, well, the Darrington's kind of the max for a lot of the rapists and murderers, and you could feel the difference in that unit. At least
at one time, I don't know if it was a Time magazine at all, but it was considered the bloodiest prison in our country.
Really,
Darrington? Yeah, it was a rough place.
Yeah, is it still like that?
Not so much. When I started full time 40 years ago, there were 17 to 19 prisons in the entire state of Texas. And today now there's like 120. Now they've closed some down. So probably, open, probably 108 to 110. So there's a huge difference there. And so they've modernized these new prisons that they've built to handle that inmate that's out of control. And so your old prisons like Darrington and others, their population, there's still things can happen, but overall, you've got a higher classification of an inmate that's going to, behave himself and not get in trouble.
Yeah, that's good. Well, we're talking to Mike Barber. He is the founder of Mike Barber Ministries, and Mike has now for 46 years gone into prisons and preached the good news of Jesus Christ and seen so many prisoners and so many convicts come to faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. I've been following Mike Barber for a long time as a tight end for the Houston Oilers and the Lovey Blue Days, and it is a great privilege for me to have him on the program today. You're listening to Real Truth for Today. Pastor Jeff Shreve here on American Family Radio. We're up against a break, but we'll be right back. Don't go away.
How about this? Some actual good news on the healthcare front, even as costs just keep skyrocketing. So if you're 65 or older, MediShare now offers MediShare 65 Plus. Call them. You can talk to them about this. A lot of people are taking advantage of this now because even if you have Medicare Parts A and B, there are out-of-pocket things, deductibles and copays that just keep going up. And the whole point is to help you by giving you a low, consistent monthly payment that fills in the gaps. In fact, I can tell you how much MediShare 65 Plus is. For example, it's $99 a month up to age 75. It keeps costs under control. That helps with peace of mind. MediShare is trusted, too. It's been around for 30 years, and it's a community of people who help each other. Business owners, retirees, pastors, teachers. People love being part of it. Here's the number you can call now. They are easy to talk to. Call 833-45-BIBLE. That's 833-45-BIBLE, 833-45-BIBLE.
The Awakening with Bishop E.W. Jackson.
We have not been made the greatest nation in the history of mankind by denigrating God. We have become the greatest nation on earth because we are a nation that acknowledged Almighty God to be the source of our values, our rights, our liberties, and that therefore we are accountable to Him.
The Awakening on the podcast page at afr.net.
Jerusalem, oh Jerusalem, how many times I would have taken you under my wings. They had everything that was necessary for them to know Jesus and follow Him, and they went their way.
I think for nations, for individuals, there is a day that you have to make the decision to respond to the Lord, and it might be that the door of opportunity after that shuts.
Exploring the Word, weekdays 3 p.m. Central on AFR.
If you're new to the American Family Association, or if you've been with us for a while, it's easy to focus on the American Family part of our name and completely forget about the association part. AFA is more like a diamond with many facets that make up the whole. If you didn't know, this is our broadcast division, American Family Radio. We also have a national Christian news service, American Family News. And then there's our governmental affairs affiliate, AFA Action. But that's still not all. We've got a video streaming service, AFA Stream. 1 Million Moms defends our kids against exploitation in entertainment media. If you enjoy faith-based blogs, you'll love The Stand. And if you want to find great resources and gifts, there's the AFA Resource Center. After all that, there's still more. So stop by afa.net/connect and stay connected to help you and your family stay informed, equipped, and ready to take action. afa.net/connect.
This is Real Truth for Today. Podcasts of the program are available on the podcast page at afr.net. Now, back to Pastor Jeff Shreve.
Welcome back to the program. Pastor Jeff here talking to NFL player and legend in my mind, Mike Barber. Mike had a great career as a Houston Oiler and then as a Los Angeles Ram back in the day. And then the Lord saved him and called him into full-time ministry, full-time prison ministry, and he's enjoyed every bit of that. 40 years with the Mike Barber Ministries, 6 years before that. So, Mike, you didn't start Mike Barber Ministries until after your tenure.
Correct. I was a volunteer for 6 years, my last 6 years in the league. And the day I retired, I started full-time the Mike Barber Prison Ministries. Mm-hmm. And here we are.
So, Mike, I was looking up some things. Tell me if I was getting some things from AI, and so you don't know how much of that is actual fact. But when you played pro football, the salaries were they're nothing like now. I mean, guys were making, what, 50, 60, 70,000 a year?
Well, I was their only pick in the first 3 rounds. I was their first pick and only pick in round 1, 2, and 3. And my first year salary was $35,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I had to work in the off seasons. And I started all 10 years that I played. And I didn't break 100,000 until my 6th year in the league. And I was always ranked pretty high overall in the AFC and NFC as tight ends playing the game. And Howard Cosell was a big friend of mine, and he always had nice things to say about me. And speaking of him, we were playing the Jets, New York, Monday Night Football. I'm standing in the lobby. Here he comes. Mike Barber, number 16 for White Oak, Texas, the mighty Roughnecks, throws out my stats. Throws out, goes to Louisiana Tech. Everybody couldn't understand why he took a Division II college over Division I when everybody was asking him. And then he goes, and his very first 7 catches as a collegiate athlete in a row all went for touchdowns. And they finally figured out the boy can run.
Yeah.
He spit all this out. And it just overwhelmed me. But yeah, I worked in my off seasons my first 7 years in the league because I had to make ends meet. Big cities are expensive. And fortunately, I was fairly popular. So I did a lot of autograph sessions, and that made me some good money. But nothing like today. It's overwhelming. Yeah,
it's crazy. What do you think about the quality of the league now versus when you played?
Well, it's definitely I think when we played, it was a game. It was a business, but it was a game, and everybody was loyal to each other. We were loyal to the fans, etc. But today, I used to sit. My teammate with the Rams was Jack Youngblood.
Oh, I love Jack.
He was number 85. I was number 86, and our locker was all by the number that And he and I used to sit and talk. Wouldn't free agency be an awesome thing in the NFL? But it'll never happen in a million years. And today, now you look at it, and it's, in my opinion, our opinion, it's ruined the game because there's no loyalty.
No.
It's all about me.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, today, there's really no such thing as an off season. And we had a true off season. But it's just so commercialized today, and it's all about the money, in my opinion. And I talked to some of my old teammates. I was on, visiting with my quarterback, Dan Pastorini, just the other day, and we started talking about that. And it's a different time, and it's all about the money. And we played hurt. You can sprain an ankle today and you're out for 3 weeks,
Right.
And so I honestly think that we were tougher. I really do. But these athletes today, when I played, I don't think there was but 2 players that weighed more than 300 pounds in the whole league. And today you average like 15, 16 players per team that weighs 300 or more. And the size, the speed, but it's their off season, what all they have, provided for them that makes them better athletes. And so, I salute their athletic ability and their conditioning. But as far as just the pure game, it's disappointing.
Well, you played, now Butkus was out of the league when you played?
Yes.
Okay. He was a killer.
He was my favorite player.
He was dirty.
Yeah, I loved him.
Okay, so when you played against the Steelers, Jack Lambert and those guys, Lambert was the guy that had no teeth?
Yes, the toothless wonder. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a dirty player too.
I didn't think he was dirty. He played very physical. And the thing about it, Jack was a real gentleman, in my opinion.
Was he?
And but when he put that helmet on, he became a different person. But I even though I got a horrible bad shot by their safety,
Mike Webster.
Yes, that was definitely a cheap shot, But I never saw Pittsburgh as really a dirty team like you hear everybody talking about. They played hard. They played from the time the ball was snapped to the whistle blew. And they held a lot. I got so used to get so mad at them at doing that. But I had great respect for Jack. I always told him, I said, man, with those 2 teeth out, you're the ugliest guy I've ever seen. I'd seen your picture. I'd seen your picture in a Ripley's Believe It or Not, and I'd send it back. We don't believe it. You understand? But great organization.
As a tight end, when you played the Steelers, who were you having to block most of the time?
Well, Jack Ham, and then they'd put the defensive end out on me. God, I'm blank on his name right now. But mostly
not Mean Joe.
No, he was over the nose. L.C. Greenwood. Was who I played against a lot.
Yeah,
and they'd put it, him in a 6 technique, which is head up over the tight end. And Ham was just on the outside of him, but mostly I played against Jack Ham. He had the best hands of any defensive player or linebacker I ever played. He just didn't miss with his first move. Boy, he's got you on the inside. He had a good upper body strength. He wasn't a big man at all.
Yeah.
And he had real good quickness, but we had good games. He wouldn't quit. I didn't think I would quit. I had pretty good quickness. And so we had good games against each other. And yeah, he was a great player.
Hey, Mike, when you play in the NFL, everybody is a great player to make it to the NFL. But now in your era, there might have been some guys that maybe they were big, but they weren't, all that great from the standpoint of how did you make it? Did you run into some guys like that on the Oilers?
Yes. Today, without a doubt, the least on that team is a great athlete,
Mm-hmm.
And today you got to have a certain amount of 40 time or 20 time in order to play. And back then, I don't ever remember one time being tested on the 40-yard dash in the NFL. It was just no big deal. If you could learn the playbook and if you could play pretty good, then you got a shot on it. There back then there were more players that made the team free agency than like they do today.
Yeah.
So, but they should be better athletes today because look at all the aids all around, that they have to take and use to get their body in order. We never thought about a diet. We never thought about eating right. My diet was so horrible, from East Texas, good old country boy. A diet, what's that? A nutritionist showing me how to, that never happened. Where every athlete today in pro sports, they have that today. So they should be stronger. They should be more healthier. They should be quicker.
Okay, so here's an anomaly for the fan watching the game. Kenny Stabler, because I know you played with Kenny, right?
That's right.
He didn't look like an athlete at all. Of course, I think he was broken down with his knees and stuff. But
they timed him with a calendar on the 40-yard dash.
But he was a winner.
I tell you what he could do better than any quarterback I played for. He had a knack of filling the rush. You'd have swore he had eyes in the back of his head. He'd be there, and all of a sudden, he knew when to do that. When that arm is coming by him, he had the greatest knack of dodging the rush than any quarterback. And you ask a lot of athletes, they'll tell you that exact same thing. What made him special? His arm, his accuracy was amazing. But his best thing that he had about him is he had the ability to avoid the rush. And not a lot of quarterbacks have that, but he just had that because, like you just said, what we're talking about, his foot speed was slow. And but he had that knack of feeling the pressure and getting away from it. And he always kept his eyes downfield. Great quarterback. I love catching the ball for him.
Did you enjoy playing with him more than Dan?
Well, Dan, a different quarterback. I love Dan Pastorini. He's my quarterback today. He's my number one. Tough as nails, tough as any. He took such a beating, and he was going to play no matter what, And Dan deserves a lot more credit than what he's gotten over the past years and stuff. So when it gets down to just that, Dan's my guy.
Yeah.
And my first quarterback, but now Kenny Stabler's, he's just a different individual. I love his ball just floated. He had the timing. He knew when the ball needed to get there. He could zip it if he wanted to. And he was a quarterback that he really loved the tight end,
Yeah.
Dan didn't go so much, but you got Kenny Burroughs on one side and Billy White Shoes Johnson on the other side. And I think I'd be throwing it down the field myself, Where Snake, he really loved, and of course, when he was my quarterback, my stats just because, they traded, as you know, and they got the great tight end Dave Casper. Well, Dave and I, we started the two tight end offense that everybody in the league copied.
Yeah.
And And of course, Dave Casper just, he's an amazing tight end. And so,
he was a big guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's a big guy. He wasn't any taller than me. He might have been a half inch, maybe an inch taller than me. He didn't weigh that much more than me, but he was a natural tight end. I don't know if I was or not, but he was awesome. And then of course, two tight end offense with Snake back there. He's going to get double teamed a lot, and I've got a little guy, one-on-one with me, and I got a better chance. And so I go up there, but that's because of the other tight end in the game is Casper. Mm-hmm. And so it worked out really well. But I love those days with Snake. It was special.
Now at La Tech, you didn't play with Bradshaw? No,
he was before me.
Okay.
Yeah, he was 4 or 5 years, I believe, before me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. The Duck Dynasty, Phil Robertson just passed away, and I know that he used to like to tell people that Bradshaw was his backup.
Well, the deal is Terry Watts.
Yeah.
And Coach Lambright got tired of Phil coming in. He came in, and the team is already out on the field pregame warm-up. And Phil comes in with a string of bass over his shoulders, barefooted, which he was always barefooted. And he was the starting quarterback at that time. And the coach said, "That's enough, Terry. You're it." Which Terry would have by far beat him out.
Sure.
But at that time, Phil was a great quarterback, but, his love for outdoors was a lot more important to him than a pigskin.
Yeah. Okay, so Mike, it had to be a big deal, and obviously it was a work of God on your heart, because you still to this day love football, but you didn't go the coaching route. You said, God's called me to be a pastor, a preacher in the prison system.
Yes, I was completely convinced that I'm going straight into the NFL. I had 2 or 3 teams that had just told me, "When you're ready, Mike, call me." And that was going to be my life. I had studied the game, and I was ready. But I went to Seoul, Korea, on a place called Prayer Mountain, and thousands of people there. It's just old dirt hill. There's nothing pretty about it. But all you do is you step off that bus, whatever vehicle you're in, and you go find your place, and you're there before God and praying. And that's what I did. I saw a guy up against a tree, never saw his face. I was walking by myself, and his face was in the dirt. And I mean, Jeff, he was praying in a language that I knew wasn't his language. Mm-hmm. And the Holy Spirit just filled me, and it just completely changed my life and gave me a new perspective. And I knew that it was here to stay. And I came back and played my very last year in the league, or I was going to go into my 11th year, but I couldn't think about football at all. And so, yes, I became a new man with my parents.
Amen. Well, we're talking to Mike Barber, former NFL tight end for the Houston Oilers and the Los Angeles Rams, and heads up Mike Barber Ministries, the founder and president of Mike Barber Ministries. He's shared the gospel in prisons across the country and concentrated in Texas for years and years and years. You're listening to Real Truth for Today. Pastor Jeff Shreve here. We'll be right back.
In a recent survey of 1,200 left-of-center American adults, 55% responded that assassinating Donald Trump could be justified. We're swimming in shark-infested cultural waters. Some are suffering from Christianophobia. Jesus said, "If they persecuted me, they'll also persecute you." Please give today to help AFA keep equipping you and others to stand for Christ. Help us shine His light into our dark culture. Visit afa.net/warrior.
AFA Action takes attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the family constantly employ new tactics to try to sneak past our radar. They know if we stand together, their evil plans will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video, "When Your Faith is Illegal" by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
Hey, I'm Brant, and her name is Sherry.
Hello.
She's a friend of mine whom we were just praying for because of a surgery she just went through.
Yes, and I am very happy about something you actually talk about all the time, which is
Medishare.
That is right.
Yeah. So what was your experience like with Medishare and the healthcare bills?
Honestly, Brant, seamless. And what a blessing that is when you're already nervous about a health issue, which I was.
Yeah.
Members shared my expenses. There were zero problems. And let me tell you, having people pray with you when you call in with your need, that is just...
It is refreshing.
Yes, that's what it is.
That's what I keep telling people. People love Medishare, and they love saving tons of money, too. The typical family can save $500 a month.
I am very thankful for Medishare. It is so different, and I mean different in a very, very good way.
It is good different. Call now. They're easy to talk to, and you can get a price within 2 minutes. Call 833-44-BIBLE. That's 833-44-BIBLE. 833-44-BIBLE.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I'm Claire from Trinity Debt Management. I'm a counselor, and the reason that I love working for Trinity is because I get to help folks with one of the hardest problems a family can face, and that's financial difficulties. In this day and age, everything is going up. You have higher utilities, higher grocery bills, higher fuel, and those credit card interest rates have gone up as well. We can help you with that. We can help you get lower interest rates, lower monthly payments. In just a few minutes, we put together a plan that gets you out of debt and keeps you out of debt. I love my job. It's a great program and a very smart way to find debt relief.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813.
I'm Claire, a Trinity counselor. Call me and become debt-free for keeps.
1-800-788-1813.
If you'd like to contact Pastor Jeff, email pastorjeff@fromhisheart.org. Now, back to Real Truth for Today with Pastor Jeff Shreve.
Welcome back to the program. Pastor Jeff Shreve here on American Family Radio. Real Truth for Today. We're talking to Mike Barber, the founder of Mike Barber Ministries. And Mike is an East Texas boy, went to White Oak High School, played quarterback, and set passing records as a quarterback. And kind of surprising, Mike, that they didn't want you to play quarterback in college. Why is that?
Well, I went to Louisiana Tech. You know, Terry Bradshaw, they used Terry Bradshaw to call me and talk to me. And, but their offense fit who I was. You know, Texas and OU, a few others, boy, they were really hunting me for me to come and sign with them. But they all ran the wishbone. And that was not a future. I had a high school coach that I had so much confidence in. And he just said, well, Mike, he says, I know it'd be nice to go to Division I. Louisiana Tech is Division II, but they run the offense that you like. So long story short, I chose there. I never cared about a crowd anyway. And I started out there, and I also went there to run track. And exactly the way it happened, there was 22 pro scouts down there timing our seniors in the 40-yard dash. Mm-hmm. And the coach that recruited me, E.J. Lewis, was there with the seniors. And I'm working out. I just got through with 2 hours track practice. And my coach, E.J. Lewis, shouted at me, he says, come here, Barber. I went down there and he says, show these scouts how fast you can run. And I ran a 4.38. And my second one was a 4.4. Cornell Green, the former cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys, he is one of them. Mm-hmm. And he yelled out after I ran the 4.38, he goes, "Whoo, that's the fastest white boy I've ever seen in my life." It was so funny. And they put his statement in Sports Illustrated when the little column says they said it. It was real funny. But long story short, back then, I was too big for a quarterback.
Yeah.
And scouts told our coach that he needs to get his hands on the ball. And so next thing I knew, they had put me at wide receiver. We had a real good tight end that was in his senior year. And that's when my first 7 catches literally in a row all went for touchdowns. My very first one was for 94 yards. It still holds a record today. And but then our tight end hurt his knee, and before I knew it, they moved me into tight end. And here I am all these years. It was the right position for me, And Pastor, that's the thing. We all have to understand our right position in life. Mm-hmm. A right position is that you know your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life. That is the right position. And all the moving around, they put me at strong safety a little bit as well, but because of my size, my speed, they put me at tight end, and I had great success there. 2-time All-American at Louisiana Tech first team, and so very, very, very honored. They knew what they were doing. I was upset at the first because I want to be that quarterback.
Sure,
but it didn't take me long to realize this is my place. I can.
Okay, so when you were running at a 4.4 speed, how much did you weigh?
I weighed 232. Yeah, I was a good size, But see, I ran a very I won state my senior year in the hurdles in Texas, and then I was ranked like in the top 10 in the nation in the high hurdles my first 2 years in college, but I worked real hard on my speed and stuff. And so God really blessed me when I got to Tech. It's like I advanced forward there with my speed. And so it was a great asset to me. And I was able to use it for a lot of success there in the game.
So Mike, why did you get in so many fights early in your career?
Well, unfortunately, it's the way I was raised. I had to live away from home most of my high school years. My dad was a very tough man. Loved my dad, but he had a violent temper. And the way he didn't whoop us, he beat us. And I've been hit in the head. Got a scar here from a hammer. Got another over here. He was a painter, hit me in a paint stick because I didn't put the drop cloth up right side. And after he's done painting at the end of the day, 8-9 hours later, then he takes him to the emergency room, puts 10 stitches in me, best I remember. So that's the way I was brought up. I was angry. I was mad. I thought I was a good kid. I never drank. I never did any drugs or anything. But for whatever reason, saw him pull my mother, by the head of her hair. So I saw her go bald-headed 5 different times. And so, I was a product of anger. And to God be the glory, God had his hand on me and he protected me. And here I am today. But that's the reason why. And, we're right around the corner from Father's Day. Mm-hmm. And, 1 in every 5 or every 6 of our youth today is going to be locked up in prison, Pastor. Mm-hmm. And we fathers, our dads, we'll turn our country around when dad gets in right place. Mm-hmm. And his right place is at home and be an example. You're called to be your kid's hero. Right. And nobody else. And when we do that, we make a difference.
Did your dad ever come to Christ, Mike?
He did. I had the opportunity to share Christ with him. We went to church all the time, and it was every night. My daddy ended his days on his knees, and he could never pray without crying. But he had a spirit inside him. I hate to call it demonic, but that's exactly what it was. He was beaten as a kid. Mm-hmm. And he was violent, and his last 14 years of his life, I was able to. I shared Christ with him, and I knew that he had accepted Christ into his heart. He never would say "I love you." He never hugged me, mm-hmm. and never called me son. And that's a whole different story there. Mm-hmm. But I'm truly convinced. I'm not one to say, he's going to go to heaven when I know better. I don't do that. Mm-hmm. But I truly believe that my dad got it right there at the very end of his life. And he lived in a nursing home, and I'd draw from Houston to come see him. And I'd always bring him a vanilla malt. And I prayed the whole time. He'd had a pretty bad stroke. The whole way there, I called the nursing home, said, let me feed him lunch. Wait until I get there. Mm-hmm. And I did. And I prayed the whole time. He slept most time, couldn't talk. And I asked him, said, God, wake him up when I walk into the room. Mm-hmm. And God did. gave me his clear mind for about 10 minutes. And I was able to know that I know that he had asked for forgiveness and truly asked Christ into his heart. So thankful for that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a great story and great testimony. When you were dealing with that, did you ever bow up against him? I'm assuming he's a big guy.
Yeah, he was 6'2", 220. And when he hit me in the head with a hammer, I ran, small house we was in, but I was able to get to my bedroom and close the door and locked it. And I had a bat over there in the corner of the room, and I grabbed the bat. By the time I grabbed it, he had already kicked the door in, and I had the bat cocked. And I told him, I said, I've had enough, and I said some words there. I told him, if you ever touch my mother again, my little sister, you're going to have me to deal with. And he knew I meant it, because I wasn't scared of anything. And he put his hammer down, threw it on my bed that I slept on. And he never laid the hand evermore, because I told him, I said, if you do it, I'm going to come say, I don't care what happens to me. And so he did. And but the neat thing about it, we ended right.
Yeah. Very good. Now, Mike, when you were on the program, it's been a few years now, but you talked about getting to lead Bum Phillips to faith in Christ.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I asked Bum. Bum was, he drank a case of beer probably for 50 plus years, 7 days a week. He's a good old country boy. He didn't mean to be cussing, bad, but he'd say GD, MF in front of women, children. It was his talk. Mm-hmm. And I finally got brave enough to invite him to come into prison with me. And his immediate answer was, he said, Michael, he always called me Michael, I've been waiting for you to invite me. And so he came in with me. It was in the Darrington unit.
Oh, wow.
Anyhow, I talked about the playbook, my Bible, I call it my playbook. And I had the old playbook with me. Beside that, I didn't turn in when I was with the Houston Oilers. And so I compared the two. He's sitting right over here to my left when I was speaking. And anyway, long story short here with our time, he listened. And I gave the altar call, and he was standing with the inmates. And then when we got back into the van that we rode to the prison to, immediately he said, Mike, he said, I'm 78 years of age. He said, I've never heard anybody ever tell me that I have to accept Jesus to go to heaven. I just thought being a good old boy was good enough, and I'm the best good old boy there is. Mm-hmm. And I said, Coach, I remember when you put that Oiler playbook in my hand and you told me in front of the whole team, doesn't matter if you're All-American, doesn't matter what you did in college. If you don't know this playbook, you'll never get on the field. Your ability won't get you there. And I said, it didn't take a rocket science for me to figure out what you just said. And I said, Coach, I love you, and I'm telling you, if you don't know this playbook, don't matter how good of a boy you are, you can't go to heaven. There's a heaven and there's a hell. And he threw his hands up. He says, tell me how to do it. And he had prayed with me in the gym, but then I explained it to him. And so the last 14 years of his life, he came into prison with me all the time. And I was able to share with him about his language and drinking. And he put all that down just overnight, because I told him, do you want to be a ball player, or do you want to be an all-pro for God? He said, I want to be an all-pro. I said, well, you need to stop your cussing, and you need to stop drinking. And because it affects your testimony. So it's up to you if you want to be an all-pro. He could understand that. I mean, just like that, Pastor, just like that. He put that lifestyle down overnight and didn't do it anymore. And he'd come into prison with us, and those prisoners would eat him up. He could say more in 2 minutes, and I could say in 2 hours, and I wouldn't have had it any other way.
What a unique coach. Now, he and Earl were big buddies, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. But, they were as close as anybody. He loved Earl. Earl loved him like his own dad. But Bum was that way to everybody. He's only got one son, Wade, but he's got a lot of kids. And we were all his kids. He was more interested in us being successful off the field than on the field. And he always started every season off, Pastor, saying this. The very first day of the beginning of the new season, he'd tell everybody again, said, all right, I want to make it very clear right now, we're a team. But in the next week to 2 weeks, I expect us to be a family. It's not about you, it's about us.
Yeah.
That's why he started off every season with that statement. And we were family. Yeah, if one hurt, we all hurt. And we'd fight with each other during practice, but then be laughing with each other by the time we got back into the dressing room.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't the most talented team, but man, we came to play and we played hard because we loved our coach.
Yeah, that came out. I mean, that you could see that for sure. Now, when you played for the Rams, Chuck Knox was the coach?
John Robertson. It was his first year from USC. Was the head coach. Malabasi was the coach prior to that, and they let him go. And then they hired John Robertson from SC, and they traded me and Burt Jones as a package together, you know. And they gave a first round for Burt, and they gave a second and sixth round for me, and to go there. And it was a special time. It was so neat. I sat there. I led our Bible study with the Oilers the last few years there, praying when I went to the Rams. And I remember the very first day I was sitting there on that bench in front of my locker. I started looking at this player I played against, and I said, he's a man of God. He's a man of God. He's a man of God. 3 days later, we had a Bible study. I was invited for it. Every one of those players that I put was there because of their countenance. You knew something was different. And as you know, Pastor, our features speak louder than anything we should ever say verbally. You know, our countenance has a voice. Sure. And had a actually, to be honest with you, I had more fun with the Rams than I did with the Oilers because there was such a quality group of men of God on that team, and we just had a great time.
Amen. Well, Mike, we have about a minute left. How can our listeners connect with your ministry?
Thank you for asking, Pastor. You can just mikebarber.org, and it can show you how to get involved with us and go cell to cell. It can show you how to give to our ministry. We're 100%. Of course, we're a 501c3. That's all we do. Our crowd can't support us. The prisoners. Right. And so we have to have people that believe in what we do. And so you can see all the pictures and the videos and all that, but just mikebarber.org. It has everything there that you'd ever question you'd have for Mike Barber Ministries.
Well, Mike, thanks for being my guest, and thanks for listening to Real Truth for Today. Pastor Jeff Shreve. Go out today, shine for Christ, and share what great things the Lord has done for you, and God will use you as his witness.